I can't imagine the fear that this mother and daughter must have felt as they were held hostage in their own home. It all started on August 18th, 2020. Edwina Howard and her boyfriend Lavelle Govan got into an argument on Facebook Messenger. Now, Edwina says that Lavelle Govan told her that he was going to come to her house and get his things, but she was like, no, don't come to my house. I have to go to the store. And he said, well, while you're going to the store, will you pick me up a Coke? She really didn't think that much about it, but she didn't get back from the store until around 1 a.m. When Edwina got back to her home from the store around 1 a.m., she was shocked to find Lavelle in her home. She didn't know how he got in, but she tried to remain calm. Now, when she turned her back to Lavelle, she turned back around and Lavelle was pointing two firearms right at her. Edwina said that Lavelle opened fire and she was struck with one round. Edwina wasn't the only person in the home at the time. Her minor daughter was also in the home, and they tried to get away from Lavelle but ended up running to a back bedroom. Edwina told police that when she and her daughter got back to that back bedroom, Lavelle came back there, took their cell phones, and told Edwina that he was going to watch her die that night. Edwina told police that that's when Lavelle opened fire on her once again, and her daughter was actually struck with a bullet. Edwina and her daughter were held hostage in that room throughout the night, and Lavelle kept checking on them periodically. At one point, he came back and said, y'all ain't dead yet? Around 12 p.m. the next day, so August 19th, Edwina's cousin actually came over to the home to check on her because she hadn't been able to get either Edwina or her daughter to answer their cell phones. When Kashana went to Edwina's home to check on her, she took her 4-year-old child with her. So whenever Kashana and her 4-year-old got to Edwina's house, Lavelle opened the door for them and told them, like, hey, they're in the back. So Kashana and her 4-year-old walked to one of the back bedrooms at Lavelle's direction. Now, when Edwina's cousin Kashana went into the home, Kashana started questioning why it was so dark in the home, and Kashana turned on the lights. When Kashana turned on the lights, she saw Edwina and Edwina's daughter, and she saw that they were injured. She saw blood on the walls, and she saw Lavelle Govan, and Lavelle told her at that point she couldn't leave. Basically, Kashana just knew too much at that point. So Lavelle said, I'm going to make CNN with all y'all here. So Lavelle had 4 hostages in this one home in Strong, Arkansas, and he really wasn't sure what he was going to do. Now, he told Edwina and her daughter and cousin that he was going to let them go, but he had to wait until dark to do that. But then he changed his mind back and said he was going to murder all of them and then unalive himself. And Edwina said several hours went by. I mean, at this point, she was held hostage for almost an entire day. So then Lavelle found a straight razor in the house and he said, I guess I'll have to slit your throat since a bullet won't kill you. Both Edwina and her daughter begged for Edwina's life. They must have been so horrified, but that allowed Kashana a chance to run out of the home and make it to a neighbor's home. Edwina said that Lavelle started to chase Kashana to the neighbor's house, but whenever Kashana safely made it to the neighbor's house, Lavelle ran back into her house. He said, I'm sorry, but I have to do this. And then he fired more shots at Edwina and her teenage daughter, striking them both a second time, according to the affidavit for arrest. After striking them that last time, Lavelle ran from the home, got in Kashana's car, and he drove off. Edwina and her daughter were then able to leave their home and get safely to the neighbor's house after almost 20 hours being held hostage, and then they were able to contact the police. A bolo was put out for Kashana's car, which was a 2014 silver Mazda, and Lavelle was eventually arrested. Edwina and her daughter were transported to a hospital for their injuries, and Edwina had to be airlifted to Little Rock. It seems like Lavelle was so jaded by whatever argument it was that he and Edwina got in that he just lost his mind and did this terrible act, tortured this small family for all of these hours. I can't say that it's really what set Lavelle off, but Kashana mentioned to police that Lavelle said that he was upset because Edwina had called him crazy. Now, Lavelle did not have a mental health condition, but Lavelle had had several well-documented strokes, and that created some cognitive dysfunction with Lavelle. And it sounds like that seemed to be a pretty upsetting thing for him. Lavelle Govan stayed on the run for 5 days before he was arrested in Louisiana. When Lavelle Govan was arrested, he was charged with 2 counts of attempted capital murder, 4 counts of kidnapping, theft of property for stealing Kashana's car, and then residential burglary for breaking into Edwina's house. Those are some serious felonies, and if found guilty, I believe under the new state law that Lavelle Govan would have to serve 100% of his sentence. In 2023, the charges of terroristic threatening in the first degree and aggravated assault were also added to Lavelle Govan. Now, you'll notice that this case is from 2020. It's now 2023, and there has been no resolution in this case, but there is a reason for that. The court ordered for there to be a fitness to proceed exam done on Lavelle Govan, and in October of 2021, not only was Lavelle found unfit to proceed, but he was ordered to be hospitalized at Arkansas State Hospital. Now, he was hospitalized there until April of 2022. So that was a good, almost 6 months that he was hospitalized before he was found to be fit to proceed. I do want to add that even though Lavelle Govan was found unfit to proceed initially and sent to the Arkansas State Hospital, Lavelle never had a mental health condition. This was strictly about his cognitive function because of the several strokes that he had had. In fact, he was never even put on any kind of mental health medication or anything while he was at Arkansas State Hospital. At any rate, Lavelle Govan, during his second mental health evaluation, he did give an account of what he feels like happened during the events that led to his arrest. So Lavelle basically said that he didn't have anything to do with it. He does acknowledge that Edwina, of course, was shot. He says he has knowledge of the crime, but it just wasn't him that committed the crime. And then he just basically said that he didn't want to say anything else without speaking to his attorney first. In October of 2023, the state filed a motion with the court saying basically it's been over 3 years since Lavelle did this. He was on the run for 5 days before he was arrested in Louisiana. Now, the court has been going through this entire process for over 3 years, and we object to any further continuances being issued in this case. Like, we want to go to trial. It's time for this to be over with. Now, the defense, for their part, filed motions saying that the charges should be dropped because his right to a speedy trial had been violated, meaning that more than 9 months if you're incarcerated or 1 year if you're not incarcerated cannot be passed without that time being told, or your right has been violated to a speedy trial. But the judge ultimately found that less than that amount of time had passed, so the case will move forward as expected. It is set for trial February 5th, 2024, which is just next month. This man not only held his ex-girlfriend and her daughter hostage for hours, he shot them and waited for them to die. Lavelle Govan and his ex-girlfriend Edwina got in a Facebook Messenger argument, and he decided that he was going to go to her house to pick up his clothing. She said, "No, I will bring your clothing to you. I have to run to the store first." He was like, "While you're at the store, will you pick me up a Coke?" When Edwina got back from the store, Lavelle Govan was in her home. She turned her back to him for just a second, turned back around, and he was pointing 2 firearms in her face. Lavelle did start firing those firearms, and Edwina and her teenage daughter tried to get away. In an effort to get away, they went to a back bedroom, and he held them hostage in that bedroom, took their phones so they couldn't contact anyone. They sat in there all night into the next morning. At one point, he even came in there and said, "Y'all ain't dead yet." Around noon, she had a cousin come check on her. Her cousin came into her home. She knew that something was wrong. That cousin went into the back bedroom, found Edwina and her daughter injured, and then she was held hostage. Now, at some point, Lavelle said that he would let them go, but he had to wait until it was dark outside. Then he changed his mind. At one point, he found a straight razor and said that he was going to slit their throats. The cousin was eventually able to make it out the door. She ran away. Now, Lavelle Govan ran after her, but he came back, said he was sorry to do this, and then continued to fire several rounds into Edwina and her daughter before taking off with the cousin's car. Now, Edwina and her daughter did both survive. Lavelle Govan was charged with 2 counts of criminal attempt of capital murder, 4 counts of kidnapping, 1 count of theft of property, and 1 count of residential burglary. Lavelle Govan was arrested in 2020. It's now 2024. Why did it take so long? The reason is because Lavelle Govan was found unfit to stand trial. He had mental health care problems and needed treatment, so they sent him to the state hospital for treatment. Lavelle Govan had trial last week. He was found guilty on most counts. He was found not guilty on one of the aggravated assaults, and he was found not guilty on the residential burglary charge. All of his sentences for each of those charges were set to run concurrently, meaning he would only serve 35 years in prison at the max. I am glad that the Howard family got justice. I am very sorry for what they went through. And before I say what I want to say, I do want that to be known. I can't imagine what they've gone through, the nightmares that they must have, the PTSD, the not wanting to be alone. I can't imagine that. That being said, sometimes people are truly criminally insane. I don't know about this person, but with this case, it just brought it to mind again for me. Some people are truly criminally insane. I don't understand why in the state of Arkansas, we send people to the Arkansas State Hospital, we get them on medication, and then we make them stand trial. If they were criminally insane at the time of the incident, I feel like that is criminally insane, and that should be it. They should not be out in the public. They should be in the state hospital, but I don't think that they should necessarily be made fit for trial and then stand trial for something that they did when they were criminally insane and be forced into state prison where they're not going to get mental health care, if that makes sense. And please let me know if you agree or disagree with me. I am open to discussion on this. I just don't understand the point in even seeing if someone is mentally fit for trial if we're just going to medicate them and force them into a trial anyway. What is the point in an insanity plea? If you are criminally insane at the time of the incident, I think that that is what should really matter. I mean, yes, you should understand, of course, the criminal process against you, and that is one thing. But I'm talking about just if you're criminally insane at the time that you commit a crime, there should be, I don't know, a different set of laws, a statute, some sort of different process for that, in my opinion, because some people have real mental health issues. Now, I don't think that they should just go free, because I think it's your responsibility, if you suffer from a mental health condition, to take your medicine, to do the things that you need to do so that you can be sane, so that you can be okay, so terrible things don't happen. But in my opinion, which doesn't count for diddly squat, let's be honest, but in my opinion, I don't think that prison is a place for all criminals. And this is one reason that I think this, because look at this man. He is probably about 50 years old at this point. He's 50 years old. He got a 35-year sentence. He'll end up serving 24, 25-ish years in prison. There's a real chance that he will be released from prison at some point. And what happens then? If he is thrown into prison and his mental health issues are allowed to fester and run wild, what happens then? Because let's be honest, 35 years is not that long. So a person who is allowed to just be, BSC in prison, then they're going to be released. They're going to be, bat crap crazy on the outside. And that's not good for anybody. That's not the way it should be, in my opinion.